Kickoff is quickly approaching on the Plains, and these are my game-by-game predictions for the Auburn Tigers this season. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are powered by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FANDUEL.com/SECU to get $250 in bonus bets today. The Auburn Tigers, one of the SEC's most compelling teams heading into kickoff. The storylines, well, they are plentiful. Obviously, Hugh Freeze is on the hot seat. There is a ton of pressure in year 3 of his tenure to get this thing in gear and get the job done. What is that minimum win total? Is it 8? Is it 9? Is it making a college football playoff? I'm going to give each of my game-by-game predictions. Guys, our friends over at FanDuel, before we get going, over under 7.5 wins is the win total, with the over being at -162, the under 7.5 at +132. So 7.5, kind of that magic number. And again, whether it's over or under could be the difference in whether Hugh Freeze is back in 2026. Guys, with that being said, we're going to pull up Auburn's schedule. And again, I'm going to go through each of my selections game by game. Make sure, guys, in the meantime, you drop your predictions in the comments for what you think Auburn is going to do this season. And without further ado, let's start with that season opener on Friday, August the 29th. It is a massive game out in Waco. Heck, it's a massive game for both sides. Dave Aranda over at Baylor, Hugh Freeze over at Auburn. And speaking of FanDuel and speaking of betting and speaking of the spread in this game, guys, this is one that has gone back and forth. At one point, Auburn was favored, then Baylor was favored, then it swung back over to Auburn. I believe the latest line in this one, yes, the Auburn Tigers are favored in this football game. It is Auburn -2.5. If you're going to go grab that over at FanDuel. But again, it has swung back and forth. I feel like Vegas does not know what to do with this game. And admittedly, guys, I stared at this one for quite a while. I really, really did. Auburn is a team that I have so many mixed emotions on, as you will see throughout this prediction. But I am going to give the Tigers the nod here in game 1. I think with Jackson Arnold, I think he will play well. I understand you're going to Waco. I think it's a close game. I think it comes down to the wire. But I think the Auburn Tigers, behind a really strong performance by DJ Durkin's defense, maybe it's Keldrick Falk making his presence known. I just, something tells me Auburn finds a way to win this football game. There's so much pressure. There's so much anticipation. There's so much hype. This one feels like one you have to have if you're Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers, and I think that they will get it. After an offseason of, again, all the hype and the hoopla, I do think the Tigers will find a way. And, guys, just some gambling advice for you, because just in case the line swings the other way before kickoff, I was told one time by a Vegas sharp, a buddy of mine, if you will, who gambled on sports for a living. And, again, it was his friend who was a Vegas sharp, did it for a living, gambling on sports, simply told him this. If a line opens up, for example, the way Auburn-Baylor did, and it's Auburn -2.5, if the number goes across, if the number goes to the other side, if it swings across the number, which means the other team all of a sudden is favored, either bet the team that it swung to or don't bet it at all, because somebody knows something. That being said, though, Auburn has swung back to being the favorite. Therefore, I feel good about taking them. Tigers start the season at 1-0. Then you get Ball State in week 2. Guys, we shouldn't need to spend a ton of time talking about this one. I think it'll be a game where you probably see Deuce Knight get a little bit of action in the second half. Auburn will win. Auburn will cruise. Then you get South Alabama in week 3. Listen, if they still had Gio Lopez, who transferred to North Carolina, maybe we'd be having a more intense conversation about this football game. But they do not. Auburn will cruise. This game is at home yet again. I think this will be a great opportunity for the Tigers to continue to build their confidence before a big game in week 4 at Oklahoma. Guys, the storylines in this one, this to me is the most underrated game of the 2025 SEC football season. I just think it's a game that is incredibly compelling, right? Jackson Arnold is going back to Norman. You know he's probably going to be rudely greeted. You think about what this means for the trajectories of both these teams in the 2025 season. Both of these teams, right, are looked at as potential college football playoff dark horses. Also, you think about, guys, what it means for each of these head coaches, Hugh Freeze and Brent Venables. They both need this football game, and they need it badly. Both fan bases, I think, are looking at this game saying to themselves, this is a game we should win, and this is a game we need to win. And when you get a pair of fan bases that neither believes they should lose, well, that creates a toxic environment. And one thing about me is I love a toxic environment at a college football environment. It's an absolute blast. I mean, it is just straight up pandemonium. It is going to be electric. Guys, take whatever storyline you want. This is a game. If it were at Jordan-Hare, I'd feel some type of way about it. But the fact of the matter is you've got to travel to Norman, Oklahoma to take on John Mateer, Jaden Ott, and that Sooner offense. And I think Oklahoma edges you out. I really do. I think Oklahoma finds a way to get this win. I think John Mateer has a big game. Jackson Arnold at his old stomping grounds, it'd be a great story. I don't think Auburn is able to get it done. I think they will suffer their first loss, and I think their first loss will come in their SEC opener. I'm really high on Oklahoma this year, as you'll find out as you continue to watch these game-by-game predictions. I'm high on Oklahoma. I just don't trust Auburn to go on the road and finish a game late. Oklahoma squeezes out a close win and one they desperately need at their home field. Guys, it doesn't get any easier after that. After this one, you go on the road to College Station to take on the Texas A&M Aggies. Now, listen, I think Texas A&M is an imperfect football team. I think there's going to be a couple bumps in the road for them where they slip up. I don't trust them either, but I trust you less. I trust Hugh Freeze less in this spot. Kyle Field is still one of the toughest places to play in all of college football. I do think Marcel Reed going to take the next step under center, and I just like their roster overall right now a little bit more than Auburn's. This is a big opportunity, though, I think. I think this is a huge spot for Auburn potentially to go in, pull an upset. Not that it'll be some like monumental upset, but I fully expect Auburn to be the underdog in this football game. But right now, again, you're giving me Texas A&M at home with the roster, Mike Elko's defense. Probably a defensive game in this one, a lot of running game in this one. I think the three-headed monster, I should say, what Texas A&M has in their backfield, I think the running game is the difference. That'll be their bread and butter. I think A&M beats Auburn to drop you to 3-2 and 0-2 in conference play. Things starting to get a little bit uncomfortable, especially when you factor in the following week. You have the Georgia Bulldogs, I should say, after a bye week, by the way. So after A&M, you do get to catch your breath before you welcome the Georgia Bulldogs to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Now, you might recall what happened the last time Georgia came to Jordan-Hare. This game was close, guys. I mean, this game was really close, came down to the wire. It took Brock Bowers turning into a superhuman for Georgia to avoid the upset in this one. Listen, you could convince me Auburn pulls the upset here. You really could. I mean, you really could. This Auburn team feels like a team that they're going to have a game where they're going to pop off. There's enough talent on this roster to bite up and beat somebody, right? There's enough talent on this roster to bite up and beat one of your two big rivals that you play this season, Georgia and Alabama. There's enough. But until I see it with my own eyes, the changing of the culture at Auburn, right? There's a bad culture that has been in place under Hugh Freeze, and that is choking in the biggest moments. That is faltering, especially at the end of big games. I need to see Auburn do it before I believe in it. It has been a long time since Auburn has beaten Georgia. Maybe they're due. Maybe this is the year, but I got to see it. I think the Dogs come in. It's another really tight game. I think it's going to be a raucous environment. I just think Georgia finds a way. I think Georgia finds a way, whether it's putting together a late drive or getting together a late stop. I think it's similar to that 23 game. I think the Dogs go into Jordan-Hare and they prevail to drop Auburn, guys, to 3-3 and 0-3 in conference play. There would be a lot of folks calling for Hugh Freeze's job at this point. Here's the good news, though. You welcome the Missouri Tigers the following week. And while I do think Mizzou is a little bit underrated, I think you bounce back and get a win here. I do. I think you bounce back, you get a win. Maybe even take out some frustration from the previous 3 games on a Missouri team that I still think is going to be solid, but probably not as good as they were last year. And I think this is a game Auburn should expect to win. And I think they will win on their home field, finally picking up that first SEC win, heck, about halfway through the season. Side note, though, if Auburn's 3-3 and 0-3 in conference play, I wonder what are the chances that Auburn makes a move on Hugh Freeze. I think it's going to depend on what the scores of the games look like, and I don't necessarily think they will, but you talk about a toxic environment, the Plains will be as toxic as any place on planet Earth if that is the way they start. Again, pick up the win against Missouri. You finally get that first SEC win. You get to 4-3, 1-3 in conference. Then you go to Arkansas. And Arkansas, this is a game you could look at for a while, right? You could look at for a while. I picked Arkansas, I might recall, in the preseason last year, my game-by-game predictions, to beat Auburn on the Plains, and Auburn fans thought I was insane. Sure enough, it's exactly what happened. If you look at the history of this series, the road team has actually fared really, really well. I think the road team will fare well in this one. Guys, I mean, this game, if it was being played at Jordan-Hare, playing neutral site, Fayetteville, I would like the Auburn Tigers here. I just think Auburn's got more. I mean, if you're losing to Arkansas, I think that should tell you everything you need to know about whether you need to make a change with Hugh Freeze or not. They're really, all due respect to the Hogs, if you're losing that game, it's time to make a change. I don't think the Tigers lose it. I just think they've got more firepower. I don't think Arkansas will have an answer for guys like Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, the passing game with Jackson Arnold. Heck, Deuce Knight might get some run in the second half. I think Auburn wins that game big. Same thing for the following week. I'm not even going to spend a lot of time on this because I just think Kentucky's going to downright stink. I think Auburn gets a big, big win at home over the Wildcats. Again, this one will not be close. They pull away. So you see Auburn starting to stack some victories now. What are we? We're at 6-3 and 3-3 in conference play. 6-3, 3-3 in conference play. Auburn starting to build some momentum, build some confidence. The back half of this schedule sets up really, really well for the Tigers. Talking to Auburn folks, guys. Talking to friends of mine who are big Auburn fans. Friends of mine who cover the Auburn Tigers. Born and raised with this program. They know this program like the back of their hand. When hopes get high, that is unfortunately when the Auburn Tigers disappoint. When they typically faceplant. That's typically what's happened under Hugh Freeze. Well, after a 3-game winning streak, here comes that road trip to Nashville. And who's waiting in Nashville? None other than Diego Pavia. And yes, folks, I think Diego Pavia jumps up, and I think he gets somebody this year again, maybe more than one. But until I see it, Diego Pavia owns Hugh Freeze. Just flat out. I don't care. People will tell you he didn't play great last year. It was because of the Auburn offense. I get it. I get it. But there's something about this matchup. There's something about it where Diego Pavia has been able to get the better of Hugh Freeze. I think Auburn goes into Nashville, probably an early kickoff, plays one of their worst football games. And again, Vandy's going to be solid. Let's take nothing away from the Commodores. But I think Auburn goes in off some big momentum. And somehow, some way, I think they lose a game they're not supposed to. I think they do. I think this team is going to be inconsistent. And I think Vandy gets you. I think Vandy gets you at First Bank Stadium in Nashville to potentially put the nail in Hugh Freeze's coffin. Potentially in the Hugh Freeze era on the Plains. This game would drop you to 6-4 and 3-4 in conference play. I think it happens. I think Hugh Freeze cannot solve the riddle. That is Diego Pavia. Good news is this, guys. After that game, though, you got a bye week. You take on Mercer. That's going to be a slam dunk win, no doubt. Auburn's going to cruise in this football game. To get to 7-4, 3-4 in conference play, your college football playoff hopes are over, right? Because no 4-loss team is getting in the playoff, much less I don't even know if a 3-loss team, probably not, gets in the playoff. Well, you got the Alabama Crimson Tide coming to town, and a whole lot of sins can be forgiven if you take down your arch rival, Alabama. Think about how close Hugh Freeze was 2 years ago. 4th and 31, ring a bell? Sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up. Anyways, Auburn was really close. I mean, we have seen lesser Auburn teams than this one beat Alabama in this rivalry. Something different happens at Jordan-Hare with this rivalry. It just hard to explain. Hard to explain. I think Auburn will give their best fight. I think this is going to be a fourth quarter down to the wire game. But guys, if you look at my projections at this point, I've got Alabama 10-1. And this game essentially being a game they have to win to punch their ticket to the SEC championship. And I just do not see the Crimson Tide dropping this one. I am very high on Alabama this year. And I think Auburn does drop this game. I think it's another one, late game dramatics. Tigers not able to close. And the Auburn Tigers finish their season at 7-5 overall and 3-5 in conference play. Once again, guys, it is so easy for me to look at this roster and fall in love with it. I mean, it really, really is. But I think if you need any indication as to the Hugh Freeze effect, and when I say that, I don't say that in a positive manner. If you need more proof that people have all but sold all their stock that Hugh Freeze is the guy, look how much hype Oklahoma's getting. Nobody that I've seen is hyping up Auburn in that way. Why is that? I think they've got the roster. You slap a different decal on the helmet, I might be singing a different tune. But I just don't trust Hugh Freeze to get the most out of what he's got to work with, because he's got a lot to work with. I don't trust him. I don't trust him to get the most out of this group. I think it's going to be a team that's very inconsistent, a team that's very hot and cold. And listen, I think the ceiling is higher than this. I've talked about this previously. I think this football team could win 10 games. I think it's possible. But I got to see it before I believe it. I got to see Auburn go out under Hugh Freeze and clutch up against Georgia and clutch up against Bama and clutch up against A&M and clutch up against Oklahoma and show me that things are different. Show me that you're going to find a way to win these big games late. Show me you're not going to stub your toe against a team that you probably should beat. I got to see it. So again, guys, I got the Auburn Tigers at 7-5, 3-5 in conference play. And my biggest question is this. With this 7, is this enough to keep Hugh Freeze on the Plains until 2026? Or would this be the end of the road and Auburn is spending the offseason looking for a new head football coach? Guys, what say you? Love to hear your thoughts. Over under 7.5 per our friends over at FanDuel. You taking the over? You taking the under? What are your predictions for the Auburn Tigers in the upcoming 2025 college football season? Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Before we get out of here, I do want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, because as always, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Guys, on Tuesday, August the 26th, it is FanDuel Futures Day, a new holiday for football fans. It's 24 hours of deals on all your favorite football season predictions. So take a flyer on the MVP race, whether you think it's Joe Burrow, it's Josh Allen, it's Jaden Daniels, whoever it might be, Lamar Jackson. Hey, you can crown your champion in August. The Lions, the Bucks, the Titans, the Bears, whoever it is, right? The Eagles, or parlay your division winner dark horses. Mark your calendars. This is your day for your hunches, your hot takes, your calls, and your odds. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. And again, guys, when you sign up, make sure you do so over at FanDuel.com/SECU. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. FanDuel, play your game. Once again, guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, where we get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. Till next time, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.